Welcome back. We're on the docket number 2025-2E, Annual Review of Base Rates for Fuel Costs, Dominion Energy South Carolina Incorporated. The applicant has completed their case. It's my understanding, and for the record, that South Carolina Energy Users Committee and that CMC Steel South Carolina would not have witnesses at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Thank you. So we will proceed to the case by the Office of Regulatory Staff. And floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. ORS calls a panel of Jeffrey Gordon and Anthony Brazino.
All right.
If you would raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Good morning, gentlemen. Mr. Gordon, I'll begin with you. Could you please state your name for the record?
Jeffrey Gordon.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the state of South Carolina as a regulatory analyst of energy planning and emerging technology in the Utility Rates and Services Division of the Office of Regulatory Staff.
Did you prepare cause to be prepared direct testimony consisting of 11 pages pre-filed in this proceeding on March 13th, 2025?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your direct testimony?
Yes, I have one correction. On page 8, line 14 of my testimony, the number 0.03651 should read 0.03656.
And Mr. Gordon, is that correction based on a earlier correction made by company witness Neely?
Yes, it is.
With that change, if I asked you the same questions today as those posed in your direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move the direct testimony of Mr. Gordon into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Gordon will be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand with correction.
Thank you. Mr. Gordon, did you also prepare cause to be prepared one exhibit marked as JAG1 that accompanied your direct testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your exhibit?
No, I do not.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move exhibit JAG1 into the record as the next hearing exhibit.
The pre-filed exhibit of witness Gordon, identified as JAG1, is marked for identification, will be placed in the record as exhibit number 7.
Mr. Gordon, have you had an opportunity to review the settlement agreement between ORS and the company filed in this matter on March 25th, 2025?
Yes, I have.
Do you support the settlement agreement as a just and reasonable resolution of this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Mr. Brazino, could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Anthony D. Brazino.
And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the state of South Carolina as a senior audit manager for the Office of Regulatory Staff.
And did you prepare or cause to be prepared direct testimony consisting of 15 pages pre-filed in this proceeding on March 13th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your direct testimony?
No.
If I asked you the same questions today as those posed in your direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move the direct testimony of Mr. Anthony Brazino be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Anthony Brazino will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
And Mr. Brazino, did you also prepare or cause to be prepared 7 exhibits marked as ADB1 through ADB7 that accompanied your direct testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to any of your exhibits?
No.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move exhibits ADB1 through ADB7 into the record as the next composite hearing exhibit.
The pre-filed exhibits of witness Brazino identified as ADB 1 through 7 are marked for identification will be placed in the record as exhibit number 8.
Mr. Brazino, have you had an opportunity to review the settlement agreement between ORS and the company filed in this matter on March 25th, 2025.
Yes.
Do you support the settlement agreement as a just and reasonable resolution of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Brazino. Mr. Chair, the panel is available for questions.
Thank you very much. Dominion, any questions?
We have no questions for ORS.
Thank you. South Carolina Energy Users Committee.
Mr. Brazino, you testified in a couple of places in your direct that the under-recovered balance for Dominion as of December 31 was approximately $36 million. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
All right. I may have overlooked it, and I apologize if I did, but I don't see in your testimony where you reference the $80 million under collection as of January 31st, 2025.
That is outside my review period. We have not reviewed January's information.
All right, and so I think I recall that the Dominion testimony was submitted February 13, and that the ORS testimony was submitted March 13. Is that your recollection?
Yes, sir.
And of course, Mr. Farley's Exhibit 1, page 1, was in his testimony on February 13th. But was it the decision of the ORS not to try to audit any of those numbers?
There isn't a decision being made about that. It is historically January through December for our actual period for our review. And we do not have any information that supports the January numbers.
All right, and so the ratepayers are going to be asked to pay for recovery of that $80 million undercollection without the benefit of an ORS audit. Is that your testimony?
My testimony is that it's included in the estimated and forecast period, which is subject to ORS's review next year.
And so, in essence, Mr. Brazino, if you were to determine that the $80 million figure were inflated, the ratepayers would, in essence, be affording Dominion a loan for any imprudent amounts for that period. Is that the ORS's position?
I think it's an estimate and a forecast, and those numbers are always wrong, regardless of how great the tools are used. So we can only audit and review so much. For my purposes, my review was January through December of 2024.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any questions from CMC still?
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner questions. Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. I think I just have one question, and it's for you, Mr. Brazino. So based on ORS's review, do the company's accounting practices in computing and applying the monthly fuel adjustment clause comply with applicable law in this proceeding and prior commission orders?
I believe the cost recovery that they've requested, subject to the adjustment that the company has agreed to through settlement, is appropriate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Any further commissioner questions? Any redirect?
Very briefly.
All right.
Mr. Brazino, Mr. Elliott asked you questions about the company's fuel numbers for the period of January 2025. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And I believe your response to him was that you did not review those numbers because you reviewed the company's actual review period.
Correct.
And Dominion's actual review period is when?
January 2024 through December of 2024.
How many fuel proceedings have you testified in, Mr. Brazino?
I've lost count, but I have testimony in over 20 dockets.
And since you've been testifying in Dominion fuel proceedings, has the review period always been January 1 through December 31?
With the exception of the mid-year, yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you. Any recross? Anyone? All right. Any further commissioner questions based on the redirect? Hearing none, gentlemen, you may step down.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, ORS would now call the panel of Mr. Brandon Bickley and Mr. Omari Thompson.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, if you would raise your right hands, please. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Mr. Thompson, I'll begin with you. Would you please state your name for the record?
My name is Omari R. Thompson.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the state of South Carolina as a regulatory analyst in the Energy Operations Division for the Office of Regulatory Staff.
And did you prepare cause to be prepared corrected direct testimony consisting of 9 pages pre-filed in this proceeding on March 26, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your corrected direct testimony?
No.
If I asked you the same questions today as those posed in your corrected direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move the corrected direct testimony of Mr. Thompson into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The corrected pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Thompson will be entered in the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Thompson, did you also prepare cause to be prepared 8 exhibits marked as ORT 1 through ORT 8 that
Yes.
accompanied your corrected direct testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to any of your exhibits?
No.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move exhibits ORT 1 through ORT 8 into the record as the next composite hearing exhibit.
The pre-filed exhibits of witness Thomas identified as ORT 1 through 8, marked for identification and will be placed in the record as exhibit number 9.
Mr. Thompson, have you had an opportunity to review the settlement agreement between ORS and the company filed in this matter on March 25th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you support the settlement agreement as a just and reasonable resolution of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Bickley, would you please state your name for the record?
Brandon Sinclair Bickley.
By whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I'm employed by the state of South Carolina as a regulatory manager in the Energy Operations Division for the Office of Regulatory Staff.
Did you prepare cause to be prepared direct testimony consisting of 15 pages pre-filed in this proceeding on March 13th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your direct testimony?
No.
If I asked you the same questions today as those posed in your direct testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move the direct testimony of Mr. Brandon Bickley into the record as if given orally from the stand.
The pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Brandon Bickley will be entered into the record as if given orally from the stand.
Mr. Bickley, did you also prepare cause to be prepared 5 exhibits marked as Exhibit BSB1 through Exhibit BSB5 that accompanied your direct testimony?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to your exhibits?
No.
Mr. Chair, ORS would move Exhibits BSB1 through BSB5 into the record as the next composite hearing exhibit.
The pre-filed exhibits of witness Bickley, identified as BSB 1 through 5, are marked for identification and will be placed in the record as exhibit number 10.
Mr. Bickley, have you had an opportunity to review the settlement agreement between ORS and the company filed in this matter on March 25th, 2025?
Yes.
Do you support the settlement agreement as a just and reasonable resolution of this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bickley. Mr. Chair, the panel is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Torrey. Any questions from Dominion?
No questions.
All right, South Carolina Energy Users Committee.
Mr. Bickley, let me draw your attention, if I may, to page 6 of your testimony. It probably starts at the bottom of page 5, but draw your attention to page 6, lines 1 through 5.
You said 6, lines 1 through 5?
I believe that's what I said, and yes, that's what I mean.
I'm there.
And put your thumb on that, and let me draw your attention, if I may, to your exhibits BSB 1, 2, and 3, if I may. And I'm going to question you about. You can choose which document you'd like to use as a outline for your answer. So you testify that Dominion's sales for the year were less than what they forecast. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, as stated on line 2, company's actual megawatt-hour sales during the actual period were 1.61% lower than estimated.
Right, and as I look at your exhibit BSB1, I note that 1.61% for the year in question, but I also note the 5-year average is 2.90%. The error is actually minus 2.90% for a 5-year period. Is that what you observed?
For a 5-year, correct.
Right. So that would suggest that over time, Dominion's estimate of these sales has been under estimated at a number greater than just this 1 year. This 1 year in a knockoff, in other words, over a 5-year period, they are consistently under reporting their sales, correct? Under forecasting their sales, correct?
I mean, that's what the number tells you on the face, is that minus 2.9 in a 5-year average. But again, that's an average of a 5-year period. And all that is looking at an average of a 5-year period.
Excellent, which is what your testimony says and which is what your exhibit says.
Correct.
All right, now drawing your attention to BSB2, this is a comparison of the estimated to actual fuel cost. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you testified, and your exhibit sustains your testimony, that for the review period, Dominion's actual costs exceeded their forecasted cost by 9.68%. Have I stated that correctly?
Yes, you did.
All right, and similarly to BSB1, if you look at their forecast and versus actual fuel cost for the 5-year period, they've actually underreported, underforecast, underestimated their fuel cost by 19.7%. Do you see that?
Over the 5-year period, yes. And again, that's an average over 5 years.
Right, that's what your testimony says. Thank you. And then last, your BSB3, this is a comparison of estimated to actual base fuel cost. Do you see that?
Yes.
And as I understand your testimony, the actual expenses exceeded the projection, as the way you put it, by 8.84%. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, during the review period.
And for the 5-year period, the actual underestimate is close to 12%, 11.98%. Is that correct?
Yes.
But your testimony simply offers that as an observation, but no explanation. Do I understand your testimony correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Any questions from CMC Steel, South Carolina?
No questions. Thank you, sir.
Any commissioner questions? Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. Mr. Bickley, page 7 of your testimony, I want to get back to something we talked about earlier, and that has to do with forecasted power purchases. Was ORS able to identify and validate the necessity of the increase that was projected for purchase power?
Yes. Do you mean just for purchase power or just the increases as a whole?
For purchase power specifically.
Yes. As part of our review, we verify what the company's requests are and then compare that to both their actuals and their forecast.
And what do you think the drivers are from your perspective?
Drivers in general?
Of that increase.
So please correct me if I misunderstand your question, but the general drivers for Dominion's increase in its totality, is that what you're looking for?
For purchase power.
Just for purchase
Yes.
power?
Yes.
Specifically, I don't have that data in front of me exactly for purchase power. I can talk to you more generally about how they're all the total increase.
Why don't you
drivers
talk
the
about the
total
total,
increase.
and then I may pull out a question from that.
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, in general, the increases come from, one, the under recover balance. So that's part of it, as Witness Farley mentioned earlier from the company. Another part is their projections for costs of fuel and commodities going forward, which he also spoke to. And then a minor driver would be the company has a lot of preventive maintenance cycles that for whatever reason, they all happen in 2025. So you have units that are on standard preventative maintenance cycles. Sometimes those cycles overlap. And so in our review, ORS's review, we saw that some of those had cycled on. So you'll see some of those costs. But just because they coincidentally happen in 2025. But that's more of a minor driver.
Okay.
And I think I'll add, this might help you with the purchase power piece. Purchase power is baked into that, if that makes sense, right? So you're looking at the company's own generation and then power they purchase. And I think it's something important to note as well. Purchase power for the company also comes through as Witness Farley. I believe it was Witness Farley, and I apologize if I misstate which witness said it. But one of the witnesses spoke to PPAs for, say, solar energy. So that's part of purchase power. Genco is also part of purchase power. So when you see purchase power, it's not necessarily Dominion going out to the market and buying 100% power from someone else.
And I should have marked directly on page 7. I'll let that one go. I guess what I was trying to ask about was the increase associated with purchase power specifically, and I appreciate the broader answer, and I know we did hear from a Dominion witness testifying on that, so I was just trying to give ORS a chance to talk about the drivers of the increase.
I think the only other thing associated with purchase power, Commissioner, that would probably help you is because you have the outages that we look at for the forecasted period, or when rates essentially go into effect as well. So for the rest of this year, when you're looking at the outage schedules, the company imputes that into their calculations for their fuel request. So purchase power, for example, if you have a unit down, you're going to go back into your stack of units that you have, and then if you have no generation available, then you go and purchase power.
And is there
generally speaking.
And is that what you were saying earlier? This just happens to be a year where there's a lot more. There's going to be more outage coming up. And
Correct. Not
therefore-
necessarily more outages, but just maybe more outages together and more outages in general. And again, my colleague next to me might have more to add from the ops side. I don't know if you do or not, but I may have covered all of it. But that's something that we've looked at is their maintenance schedules. So,
Mr. Thompson, you shook your head affirmatively, but do you want to add anything else?
No, I think my colleague covered it. I was just
Okay.
concurring with his
Okay.
answer.
I think I have no further questions, but I'm going to debate. Good. I see another light on. Thank you.
Commissioner Belcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
hello.
Mr. Bickley, as part of your testimony, I think you indicated that ORS had reviewed Dominion's forecast process, their methodologies. What else?
We look at the companies. I think what I specifically mentioned earlier is we look at their actual data, right? And we compare their actual data during the review period, and then we look at that historically. We also look at their forecasted data, so forecasted outages, forecasted commodity costs, that sort of thing, and then the various inputs they use when it comes to calculating their rates.
Well, and that's where I was going. You said methodology, process as an input.
Right.
Okay. Did ORS identify any deficiencies with the methodologies used by the company?
No, Commissioner. Not for the purposes of this fuel proceeding and for the rates. I will say, in my testimony, I do cover coal inventory, and that's something that we are still monitoring based on the recent-ish settlement agreement with the company in the rate case. ORS can't make any recommendations to the coal inventory, but that's something we are still monitoring.
Well, where I'm getting at is you got some questions on differences in forecasts from last proceeding and the actuals in this proceeding, and I know that ORS's review stopped at December, and my question is, based on your testimony, it says reviewed the methodologies, the inputs, and the process. And so do y'all look at how they conduct their forecast, or y'all just looking at the numbers?
No, so I think to help alleviate confusion first, my colleague that was up prior, Witness Berzino, our audit department looks at the actual period and verifies those costs. Our department is looking at not just actual costs, but on the operations side, we also look at the forecast and the forward projections as well.
I understand that, but do y'all review what formula or methodology or program is Dominion using to make their forecast?
Right. So, and I will say the company can speak in more detail to their specific programs and methodologies, but in previous fuel proceedings and over the years, we've had many discussions with the company. We've had meetings with the company, and we to understand what their inputs are that go into their forecasts. So, for example, and I do believe their witnesses have touched on this earlier, that something like outage schedules, maintenance schedules go into the input when you're doing a forecast. The best available weather that you have at that time, as Dominion pointed out earlier, you may have a weather projection that says the weather is going to be not as cold, and then a cold snap happens that wasn't projected. But the best available weather data comes into effect. You look at things like Platts Gas Daily, NYMEX, Argus Coal. You also can look at things like the EIA data, energy information. Those resources are very valuable and included in the inputs. And then the company itself also has other processes that they use.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Belcher. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Chair Powers. I thought of it. I looked at your schedule, the exhibit for BSB 1 and 2, and wondered if you all look at national or at other IOUs that have similar kinds of actuals and projections, and how these percentage numbers might correlate with other IOUs?
I mean, we do compare with the other utilities that are in the state, because that's a comparison that's readily available to us. We do have resources where we can go like to the NASCU committee and have forums and discussions there about what we see in the industry or what we see other utilities doing.
Excuse me, what was the committee?
NASCU. You have to forgive me. I don't know all the acronym for that. Yeah, but the I think something important to remember too, though, is that each utility has its own generation mix. So a lot of times the numbers you look at really are siloed for that utility. You can branch out and do comparisons to other utilities, and we do that. But no utility is going to have the exact same generation mix. So, you know, these numbers correlate to Dominion, but then when you go and you compare to another utility, say like Duke Energy Carolinas or Duke Energy Progress, those utilities have more nuclear plants, right? Whereas Dominion has VC Summer. So the comparison isn't necessarily an apples to an apples, but you can draw interpretations from it. So.
I wonder in the future if you can analyze or compare when you look at the 5-year. I understand the 1 year might be too specific.
The 5-year, I think, is we like to just display it to give the commission another data point. It's trending. It just shows what's happened over the last 5 years. Quite honestly, versus going back and pulling up 5 years worth of testimony and digging through it, it makes it more readily available.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all of that. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Any further commissioner questions?
Chair
Mr.
Powell.
Thomas.
Thank you. I just have one, and this is for Mr. Thompson. So based on your review, do you believe the operating performance of the company's nuclear operations were reasonable and prudent during the review period?
Yes, sir. We found them to be reasonable.
Thank you. That's all I have.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Any further commissioner questions? Mr. Torrey, any redirect?
No redirect.
Thank you very much. Is anything else from any party?
Nothing from the company.
All right. Well, thank you all for your hard work in this matter. Have a good rest of your day and weekend. We are adjourned. Lawyers will meet with Ms. Wessinger Hill. Thank you.